Hey everyone, I'm with Zayn Alexandre, the writer and director of the short film Saint Rose. Zayn, let's start off. What is Saint Rose about?
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be talking to you, Alan. First time we speak, so it's a pleasure. Saint Rose, Saint Rose is about the women in our lives and the quiet sacrifices they make that we are not aware of, and this is a tribute to them, to that quiet sacrifice that they all make. And this was inspired by my life growing up in Lebanon, seeing, I was brought up in a predominantly female household, and watching my mother and sister and a lot of other women in my family I care about not living up to their full potential because of a patriarchal system that tells them who to be and what to be and when to be, and just deeply influenced me. And yeah, so.
Yeah, I mean, I found it interesting because the big obvious conceit of the film is there's not a lot of dialogue in the film, and you're telling the story through subtle actions.
Mhm.
Can you talk about the choice behind that and how you kind of execute, or how you, the choice behind it, and then how you kind of develop the script from there?
Absolutely. I agree. I mean, the film is subtle. It's behavioral as well. There is a lot of focus on the nuance and the sort of human behavior and the human psychology, and what's not being said. And it's tricky um, when you're walking that line. You don't want too much exposition. You don't want to be too subtle. But I feel like this is about someone's silent battle with oppression, and someone's relationship to their home that feels like a prison to them, and someone's relationship to their helper at home, who is a friend who is dealing with her own sort of, the character of Becky, who is the
Mm.
helper, the domestic worker, who is dealing with her own form of oppression. And these women are sort of bound by their own circumstances and the oppressive systems that they have to answer to. One is expected to leave her home and come work as a domestic worker in their foreign country, in this foreign country, and leave their family. And the other one, Rose, is expected to abide by her place in society, and because she's a woman. And I'm sorry, I lost the initial line of questioning.
Yeah, it's
The, the subtlety.
the decisions really behind
The
going.
subtlety. For me, it's much more interesting to see people in their natural habitat, what they're thinking, what they're doing, what they're not doing. The even in the mundane of just doing something, there's something behind it. I think one of the very interesting films I've seen in the last, I think, 5 or 6 years was The Assistant, and it was a Kitty Green's film, with Julia Garner. And um, uh, they obviously tap into something very difficult in the industry, and but there was a heavy focus on someone's daily office routine, and there was something very interesting about tracking someone's daily activities while they're feeling something. And that left me, that left me with that deeply influenced how, I don't know, I like to consume cinema, or what really resonates with me. So yeah, it was a choice I wanted to make. And so yeah, I hope it resonated.
Yeah. Well, our channel is mostly for independent filmmakers, kind of
Yeah.
get them behind the scenes. And what is your journey to this point? How did you get involved in film, and then how were you able to ultimately make Saint Rose?
Oh boy. I
It's
moved
either a long question, a long answer, or a short answer.
No, I'll try to make it brief. I moved to New York about 15 years ago, and I was a psychology major, and I was not allowed to pursue cinema because my dad would not support it. And so psychology was my second choice, because I think in the back of my head I was just this amateurish interest in people and behavior and emotion. But then slowly I transitioned into acting, which I very much love and is a passion of mine. But as a Middle Eastern actor back in the day, we're talking about 2011, 2012, nobody was talking about diversity. No one was talking about representation. And it was not a conversation that was being had. And so I was always auditioning for the same stereotypical Arab, Middle Eastern, heavy accent, terrorist, you name it, all the
Hmm.
stereotypes you could think of. Now there's a more nuanced thinking about the industry, and but yeah, then so I decided to take charge of I don't know my career, but I've always wanted to direct, and I've always believed I knew how to tell a story, but because I didn't come from a filmmaking background, I didn't have the courage and confidence to step behind the camera. But I eventually took that leap and directed my first film abroad, and I was in 2018, and the Santa Barbara Film Festival gave me a huge platform to debut the film. It was a film that talked about the stereotypes that Middle Eastern artists face in the West, but it was also a human story as well. And then I wanted to make another film, and my second film was Manara, and we shot that in Lebanon. And the Venice Day sidebar of the Venice Film Festival also gave us a huge platform to debut the film. And then COVID happened, and and everything sort of went online, and which doesn't make sense for filmmakers or us filmmakers who want to share our work with people in this collective experience in the theater. But I'd been writing since, and St. Rose sort of came from a feature that I've been working on. I've been developing for 4 years now in late development, hopefully in production this year. And St. Rose was a way for me to sort of, um, uh, showcase this feature in 13 minutes, just a little sample. And yeah, in a nutshell, that's been my journey so far.
Yeah. You brought up something that I find interesting because I kind of experienced it growing up myself. But, as an Asian, we could talk on and on about Hollywood and representation of minorities, but there's that kind of, you know, uh, discrimination that occurs within our own culture and community. And you talked about it within your own culture about, not going into the arts, but going into the, into real work, as
Mhm.
my parents would say. Can you talk a little bit about that and just kind of, is just your family, or is this kind of an attitude of your culture as well?
You mean the sort of attitude towards studying arts and
Yeah, like making money versus doing
oh
art.
yeah, I mean it's a whole mindset. I mean, I grew up in a small conservative town in southern Lebanon, and that was just the idea of pursuing art was not even an option. I mean, there's no artist in the family. Art seems so alien to my father, and it's just, and I think because Lebanon didn't have an industry now, things I hope are getting better, but there's no frame of reference as to who I could become if I were to pursue this. Especially, you know what I mean. There's no industry, so it's
Mhm.
not like there's a way for me to become something other than what was known in Lebanon at the time. But also, yeah, I know I wasn't sort of born and bred in an artistic family, or we didn't, my dad didn't go see the theater, didn't
Mhm.
I? Movies to me was a once a month excursion from my small town to Beirut, the big city, to see a movie once a month, and that was my escape. But I, I'm the youngest of three. I've always been this kind of rebellious person. I never wanted to do anything that never made me happy. My dad wanted me to be a surgeon. I was not good I was good in biology, but I failed pre-med the first year of college. I was like, this is not going to work. I have to do what I want to do. Um, but yeah, there is, I wish it was different. Maybe the road would have been slightly easier, but yeah, that's just the reality. But other families and other I guess this is not just general to all sort of Lebanese families, because it just depends on plenty of families, they have artists within their family and they encourage their kids to pursue artistic endeavors and whatnot. But it was just my situation, but also common to many in my town and many places in the country. And here, like, it's not something that parents want to hear. I want to become an actor, I want to become a director, especially with the world that we live in today, where money, life's expensive,
Mhm.
and cinema feels very, I have my own sort of this forensic post-COVID assessment about where cinema is today and social media, and how cinema's sort of been diluted to this digital curated facade of be bullshit, to be honest. So I don't, we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get back to St. Rose.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just interesting because I think for my family, it was, we worked so hard to get here, and then for you to go into the arts,
Yeah.
it it goes against their dreams of what they imagine their families would be
Oh
like.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's go back to St. Rose. Again, our channel is for independent filmmakers, and one thing that I see a lot in indie films, especially from young filmmakers, is that there's a lot of emphasis on the words, on the dialogue,
Mm.
and it seems like you know we're so focused on getting everything out through, the script is words,
Yeah.
and it's very descriptive. So I want to get your thoughts on the power of not saying anything, and then also how do you script that? How do you put that in your script?
Yeah. It's a good question in terms of what the script for St. Rose was, but uh, like I said, what's not said and is far more powerful than what is being said, what and what is sort of the behavior and the sort of the nuance of the human behavior and the psychology for me is far more powerful than words. But I don't know. This film is sort of a departure from my previous work, which was very much dialogue driven, um, and this one was a way for me to really um, experiment with working in sort of this genre of drama and also satire, because if you watch the watching the film, the ending of the film sort of leans into the absurdity and the satire, and then the satire, which I believe defines our life in general, especially our life in Lebanon given the circumstances. It's a bit absurd how we live. One day there's a war, one day we go back to life. And also, if we want to keep it specific to the themes in St. Rose, is sort of absurd that we have to accept our roles, especially as a woman. I have to accept this role that I'm not allowed to fulfill or to live up to my full potential, or to um, live my life to the fullest in terms of self-actualization and whatnot, and I have to accept it. So there is that kind of absurdity, and but it is, working with great actors, I think, helps when
Yeah.
you're trying to not say much and but show a lot. I think that helps, and having wonderful production designers, having wonderful DPs. I mean, I think this is a team effort. It wouldn't have worked if all of the elements sort of didn't coming together the way that they did, and this incredible team that I worked with. So,
Yeah, and how's the film been received in Lebanon and then around the world as well?
well, it just had its world premiere in Saudi Arabia at the Red Sea International Film Festival,
Mhm.
and it was very well received. There was great enthusiasm. A lot of people related to the story, to her struggle. A lot of unhappy people, and a lot of relationships, and a lot of marriages, which was really. I was really taken aback, and the main actress in the film is my own mother. Uh,
Mhm.
so I was, that was interesting sort of to experience during the shoot and post shoot and during the festival. She attended the festival as well, and a lot of people would come up to her and they would express their own sort of emotions about their feelings of confinement in their own lives, and it's more universal than well, I knew it was. We weren't just tapping into culturally specific themes. We were, this feeling of confinement is not just specific to marriage. It's specific to a lot of different circumstances, and so yeah, it was. I was very excited about how it was received. So
Yeah. So I didn't realize that was your mother. So what was it like working with her, and how much of the director's head did you have? I guess maybe the best way to phrase it is, what was your preparation like uh, for her, and
sure.
then was it you know I'm assuming you had a good working relationship, but are you still the son on set?
It's no, actually, no. Well, yes, because you have to create a very safe environment for a non-professional actor, and it was difficult because we were both tapping into very um, um, personal issues, and we were tapping into something emotionally difficult, the both of us, because this comes from my own sort of personal experiences at home. And for her, it's obviously she's coming from a place of passion because the story hits close to home, and also she had just lost her best friend who was also dealing with very similar circumstances. So um, I think at first I was a little. I like working with family because it's familiar, and I know what to get from them, and I know I there's something about that familiarity that makes me feel comfortable about taking that risk. So when we sat down for rehearsals, I immediately saw what I wanted, and I stopped rehearsals immediately, and I let the actors just not necessarily have fun on set, but follow their intuition, follow their
Yeah.
instinct. Both of my mother and Sharon, who's also our helper at home, she was also brought so much heart and empathy to the character. She wanted to give her a name. She wanted to give her a life. I mean, they both, we sat down, we had conversations about the story, and very limited rehearsals because I didn't want it to be so mechanical. I didn't want them to be in their head, and creating a very safe environment, and also very, you know, not that many people in the crew on set. It's very important for me to, when dealing with something so heavy, to allow them to not feel so self-conscious about who's behind the camera. So
Yeah, and I would also imagine that in your mind you have an idea of what the performance you want versus the performance you're getting, and was there this battle between just letting getting the more authentic performance for your mother versus the performance you had in your head going in?
absolutely, absolutely, it was all about the actor, um, and what the choices they can bring. And I love the element of discovery. For me, I had a roadmap in my hand, and that's what I wanted. I wanted to tell a story, but I wanted the actors to take charge of the story, and that was really important for me.
All right, and then last question. I guess this is I'm just curious, but the subject matter, as subtle as it is in this, were you afraid in any way, or was this is this a controversial film, or are things changing where the roles of women, the independence of women, the freedom of women are now being explored?
Not a, no, no, I don't. No, I don't think it was a controversial. No, I don't. I think it's much more, like I said, everybody who's seen it, everybody's related to it. Everybody's felt like this was cathartic to them. This spoke to them, spoke for them. But I wouldn't say it's controversial. I would say, for me, maybe there was a bit of reluctance to. Well, usually when I tap into these personal stories in my life, and I work with family, there's always this like, oh, who's gonna see it? They're gonna think it's us or whatever, and
Hmm.
kind of. But I don't. I'm working on a feature right now that's also deeply personal, inspired by my own family growing up. But it doesn't. Again, a story's a story, um, um, and the short is, I'd say, controversial. Maybe the feature, taps into more of societal critique than Saint Rose. Maybe that would, I would
Hmm.
say, controversy, but it would initiate a larger conversation. One of the beautiful writings that I just got on Saint Rose was that the writer said, "I hope it's part of a much larger conversation," and it is part of
Hmm.
a conversation. So,
Yeah. Yeah, well, quite frankly, that's the power of cinema.
yeah,
I think that's why people tell stories. So,
yeah.
thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, what are the next steps for St. Rose?
I'll be going to the Clermont-Ferrand International Short Film Festival, where I'll be participating in a market screening. Lebanon is a guest country this year at the festival, and um, the film has been invited to do a special screening at the festival. So I'll be going to France for that, and then we'll see. In terms of North American premiere, that is still sort of in the works, and currently, in late development stages for my feature. So,
All right. Well, thank you for chatting with me. Good luck with St. Rose and
thank
your upcoming feature. I
you, yeah, much.
appreciate the time.
Thank you for all what you do. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. My pleasure.